Why French people don't snack and what they do instead. If you're looking for reasons why French people don't get fat, one of the reasons that will come up is that French people do not snack. Now, it is true that they don't snack in the American sense of the term, but to say that they don't snack at all is a bit false. It's just that the way that French people snack is so different than the way that American people snack. And today we're going to be comparing the French way to the American way. If you don't know me, I'm a French nutritionist and I spent a portion of my childhood in the US. I love the US. I go there often, so I feel like I can give some insights on the subject. As usual, this is not to criticize either country, this is just to explain how things work. Now let's get into it. If you're comparing snacking in France to the US, for instance, you're gonna see that in France, snacking is not the norm. It's not something that everybody does. It's not something that is expected. The way it is in the USA is that people are constantly snacking. Now, usually they're not having huge snacks, but they're gonna have like little granola bar mid-morning, and then they're gonna have some chips after lunch, and then they're gonna have a couple cookies before dinner, and then they're gonna have some ice cream after dinner. Food is just always there, and it's not because people are always hungry. It's just that they've gotten used to this constant presence, and once you're used to that, it can be hard to go back. One thing that really surprised me in the US is that you're just expected to have a snack for everything, like every single event. Like if you're going on a little hike, even if the hike is like an hour long, you need a pre-hike snack and you need a mid-hike snack and you need a post-hike snack. Or if you're gonna watch a movie, impossible not to do so without getting snacks. Even any type of activity, like if you're walking around, you see a little ice cream store, you're gonna go get yourself some ice cream. It's just constant. And in France, the approach is just not like that at all. And you're looking at the type of snacks as well. If you're wanting to have these snacks on the go, it's like a grab and go thing, then obviously it's gonna be usually more processed snacks. And of course, that's understandable because you're not gonna take the time to make yourself a full mini meal when you're on the go. And so in that sense, in France, people don't snack because for them, when they do snack, it's something that's going to be very intentional. It's going to be a mini meal that they decide to have for a specific reason. That reason can be that they have a long break between lunch and dinner, for instance, and so they want to get in some fuel, or because they are seeing a friend and they want to share like a nice pastry together. For them, snacking is about intention, about sitting down, about sharing, and about balance, even if of course there is still pleasure. So why is it that French people don't need to snack? It's not about discipline, it's not about willpower, it's more about the structure of their meals and their habits and their culture. The first reason is simply that meals are satisfying. French people will have a full breakfast, a full lunch, a full dinner. They're not gonna have on-the-go smoothies, or they're not gonna have the tiny sandwich in between two meetings in front of their computer. They're gonna have full multiple course meals with balanced filling foods that actually hold them over for long enough so that they don't have to be grazing constantly. When you finish a lunch that has included a little soup starter and then a full meal with a source of protein, a source of carbs, a source of fat, some cheese, some dessert, a fruit maybe, and you were able to spend this time eating the meal mindfully, focused on the meal, maybe having a social exchange around the meal, then you're not gonna want to graze after that. You're good. In France, it's also really about rhythm. The meals will structure your day, and you know that you at least have your 3 meals that are planned out. The hours approximately stay the same, and if you add in a snack, it's going to be something that is, again, a kind of like planned, portioned out slot of time. So you don't need to be grazing all the time because you know what's coming up. I feel like in the US, a lot of people will graze because they don't really have a plan when it comes to the meals. They're just thinking more of like in the moment. It's like, oh, in this moment, I'm a little hungry. I'm just seeing this bag of chips, I'm just gonna have a few because I don't know when lunch is gonna be, or I don't know what the plans are gonna be, what I'm gonna be able to find to eat. So of course, in that aspect, it makes sense to just graze whatever you have because you don't have that structure. But the good thing about doing it the French way and having that structure is that it creates an internal clock for your body. Now your body's used to having this schedule and it knows that you're going to be feeding it at this time and this time and this time, and that it's going to get full meals, and the meals are going to be fully satisfactory, and therefore it's going to start getting hungry at these times. And you don't need to be snacking just in case, because again, your body trusts that the meal is going to be prioritized and that you're going to get the energy you need. Again, that's a big thing in the US, and it's not your fault at all. It's just the way that things are structured. If mealtime isn't valued as much, like these breaks aren't valued, then you never really know when your next meal is gonna be. Another important aspect about meals in France is that they are social. Meals are an entire event. So not only will French people have full balanced meals, meals are going to be moments that we share in France, and there is going to be this whole kind of like social, fun, maybe even cultural sometimes aspect attached to the meal. It's not just about fueling yourself in 3 seconds. Both in French offices and American offices, I've seen spaces for snacks, for instance, but in American offices, people will just go grab their little snack every time they walk by that room and have like a small little portion and just go eat that off by themselves in front of their computer. Whereas in French offices, people are going to ask their coworkers who's ready for a break, who wants to share maybe a croissant, a pain au chocolat, around some coffee, or a fresh pastry that somebody baked for the entire team. It's going to be this collective kind of situation, even when we're talking snacks and not just full meals. It's going to be a special moment. You're going to set some time aside for it, and therefore you're going to be able to fully enjoy that moment, but you're not going to be repeating it every 5 minutes throughout the day. And this kind of explains as well why it's not really about willpower, but more so about structure. A lot of American people will say that they have no willpower when it comes to food, that they just cannot help themselves from snacking 24/7. But the thing is that if you don't have a clear structure put in place where you know you're gonna have meals around these times, then that makes it not about willpower and just about kind of like following that structure, because you're not constantly having to battle with yourself. And you also know once you come home that you're gonna have a meal that you have planned for. So what do the French do when they snack? So first, in France, snacking has a name. It's called le goûter, and this is a very specific snack that you have between lunch and dinner, usually around 4 to 5 p.m. because in France dinners are usually later. Rarely before 7:30. Most families it's around like 8 p.m. And initially le goûter was for kids. They would come home from school, they would need something to eat because they were hungry and they, needed to be able to wait until dinner, and they needed to fuel themselves before doing like their homework or before going about their activities. But more and more le goûter is starting to become something that adults indulge in as well. Not everybody, not every adult, but it is something on occasion that people will enjoy. The way that this snack is approached is that it should give you enough energy to last until your next meal. So it should be somewhat balanced, but also the goal is to give you some pleasure. So that's also an occasion to have your favorite pastry or your favorite cookie. Now that means that usually you can accompany it with something that's a little healthier on the side, but that is for special occasions. Let's say on a more day-to-day basis, you can have things that are just simple, balanced, and that are filling and satisfying enough so that you don't overeat later and that you're not constantly grazing throughout the day. It's a moment that's meant to be enjoyed, that can be sort of a transitional period between your school/work day and then you like coming back and getting home. So when it comes to the type of snacks that French people will have, I have a few examples to show you. I'm gonna show you a few different foods and then I'm gonna show you what that could look like portioned out on a plate. So first of all, very common for French people to have some fruit in their snacks. Usually it's going to be like seasonal fruits or like very simple apple, pear. People will have like oranges, clementines in the winter, and then peaches and nectarines and watermelon, things like that in the summer. These fruit are good because you can take them on the go. And then for an adult, an entire fruit would be a normal portion. It's not about eating 2 slices like I see a lot in American households. No, if you're eating 3 grapes, that does not count as a serving. Cheese is another pretty popular one, and bread, usually they go together. And if you don't want to be putting cheese on your bread, it's also pretty common to put some butter and some jam on there. And then usually this is more for kids, but they can put something like Nutella on there as well. Now the idea is that this is not healthy by any means, but if you're putting a small amount of it on whole bread and then you are having some fruit with it, then it's totally fine. French people are also starting to get into peanut butter. It used to not be that popular, but now I see a lot of French people using it. Nuts are also a staple, very easy to grab on the go or to put on a plate. And I would say chocolate is maybe the main and most easiest thing. A lot of people will just have a couple squares of chocolate on some bread. Now, little biscuits like this is a very typical French thing as well. It's common that you make yourself some tea and that you just have a couple in your tea. And then yogurt is super common as well. Skyr yogurt is not the most common. It's one that I personally like and it's something that's gaining popularity, but yeah. People will have some yogurt and people will also have applesauce. That's a very typical French thing to just have applesauce. So if you were to make a pretty balanced snack, if you were French, here is what you would put. So for instance, you would have a slice of bread. On it, either you would do butter and jam, like the two together. That's usually the way that you do it. Or you would cut up a little piece of cheese and put that on your bread and have that with your bread. Or you would also take some chocolate and have that with the bread as well. Another example would be, again, the slice of bread with whatever you wanted on it, maybe Nutella. Let's be crazy. And then you would have an applesauce, for instance. French people also sometimes like to dip the bread in the applesauce. I know it sounds really weird and disgusting, but it's actually good. And then you might also have a few nuts along with that. This would be a pretty standard amount of nuts, not too much. Or another option would be to make yourself a nice little cup of tea and to dip some biscuits in your tea. The portions could look like having maybe 3 biscuits. Again, you don't want too many, but you want enough to just satisfy that little sweet tooth. And then maybe you could have a pear with that and a yogurt. That would be a nice little balanced snack, but still very enjoyable, very comforting. In general, the idea is that you want something that has some like vitamins and fiber, and you want some type of protein, and you also want something that's gonna be satisfying and comforting. So when people say French people don't snack, what they really mean is French people don't graze throughout the day without stopping, without putting thought into the food that they are eating. But if you want to snack the French way, you absolutely can. It needs to be more about making yourself a mini little meal that is balanced, still satisfying, still in tune with your cravings, and just a little something to wait for your next meal and not something that you're doing mindlessly all the time. So I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.